Hello and welcome. You're watching WION Fine Print. I am Krishna Kumar. Straight to the big focus tonight on the show. It's been exactly 2 months since the massacre in Christchurch in New Zealand. The terror attack served as a cold reminder to the world on the evils of online extremism. And to this end, New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and her government began work on a pledge in the weeks after the attacks of March 15th. A pledge aimed at world leaders and tech companies to eliminate terrorist and extremist content online. And now, the New Zealand PM has joined hands with France's President Emmanuel Macron. They are hosting a meeting today at the Elysee Palace in Paris. Ardern will co-chair a meeting with Macron on the sidelines of France's Tech for Good summit. And the meeting will discuss the New Zealand PM's plan, which has been dubbed as Christchurch Call. It's a non-binding set of agreements that every government and technology company sending a leader to this summit will sign. Germany and Australia are likely to sign the pledge without attending the summit. That's a bold initiative that asks signatory nations to adopt measures to ban objectionable material online. It will also require the creation of a framework for media to report on atrocities without amplifying them. Now, this meeting will be attended by other world leaders like Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Top executives of tech giants like Amazon, Google, Twitter, Microsoft and others are attending as well. For New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, it's one of the most important days of her prime ministership. This busy day of events will mostly happen overnight in New Zealand time. By dawn on Thursday, New Zealand time, the Christchurch Call should have been signed and released. And Mr. Macron is a natural and powerful ally for Ms. Ardern. He's been clear that he's fed up with Facebook's failure to act on online extremism. His government is pushing ahead with reforms to make the company more accountable.
What needs to change at the moment.
And now we have Lina Casas Montanez, WION's correspondent, joining us live from Paris. Talk to us. This meeting, not much is out in terms of the details of the Christchurch Call to Action pledge. And if you can also tell us who are the world leaders who have arrived at the Elysee Palace so far.
So in the last half hour or so, we've seen the British Prime Minister Theresa May, Canada's Justin Trudeau and the EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker arrive here at the Elysee Palace. We don't have the details for the pledge that they aim to ask tech companies to sign later today, but we know that it will focus heavily on self-regulation, so on encouraging tech companies to police themselves, and in many cases just to enforce social media policies to take down terrorist content quickly, which they already have in place, but which aren't necessarily followed in practice. Now, for critics, as one put it to me earlier today, that's like asking a pyromaniac to work as a fireman. Social media companies are, of course, reliant on eyeballs, on generating clicks, and that means that that content, which is likely to generate clicks, often shocking. It often attracts a lot of attention online, and that's difficult for Facebook's algorithms to distinguish between content that attracts attention and which their business model encourages them to promote, and content that's potentially illegal.
Elena Casas Montanez reporting live from Paris. Elena, we do know that Norway's Prime Minister has arrived, Erna Solberg, and in fact the New Zealand attacker had spoken of him being inspired by the terrorist in Norway who killed 77 people in one of the worst terror attacks in the history of Norway. We also have some of the big world powers, but the big question, apart from world leaders, is the fact that whether tech companies will come on board to this pledge.
Yes, tech companies are extremely keen to show willing. They're extremely keen to show that they can be trusted to police themselves because, of course, the threat remains that if they can't show they can police themselves, then governments will do it for them. There is legislation underway, both here in France and at the European Union level in Brussels, which would force tech companies to take down terrorist content in the case of the proposed European legislation within an hour or face a fine of up to 4% of their global turnover. So that's a very significant significant fine in the case of a company the size of Facebook. So tech companies want to avoid, above all, governments deciding they can't be trusted to regulate themselves and taking a legislative approach. And so for that reason, they're very keen to show that they are willing and able to regulate content themselves.
Elena Casas-Montanez reporting live from Paris. Thank you, Elena, for joining us with that update. Now.